these episodes thinking, feels like they're spinning their wheels a little bit here. And now watching it, I feel differently, but not completely differently. I'm probably enjoying it more than I did back then, is what I'm trying to say. But I can understand why I would have felt that way. So that might be part of it for me anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. But also, we took this break. And so I just have a few points to remind us where we are in the story
Brilliant.
here.
Please do. Because I'm like,
It's
what
really
happened?
short, but I mean, I think the most important things, or some of the most important things, were that the governor lost his purpose for living, really, in my opinion, because his zombie daughter, Penny, was killed by Michonne, and he's just pissed now, especially at Michonne, but also Rick, and just wants revenge at any cost. That's
Yep.
where we left him. Rick had been losing himself to darkness and despair, mostly over having failed to keep Lori alive. He was going kind of crazy, but then we had Clear when he saw that Morgan had descended into insanity and callousness over the guilt of losing his wife and son. And I think Rick saw that as a bit of a wake-up call, like, okay, I better get my shit together. I still have people alive that I care about, so I'm going to care again. That's what I got out of that. And then on a lot more logistical level, the governor's been training and preparing all his people for war, including age 13 and above, I guess. And Rick and Michonne had picked up a bunch of guns and ammo to fight back, and decided that they did not want to leave the prison. They wanted to try to keep it. So those are some points.
And just to put that in context, Judith was born 8 days ago. A lot has happened in 8 days.
Yeah. And Merle left. Why did, I guess because the governor was pissed that Merle
He
had
didn't kill
lied
Michonne.
about killing Michonne, so he pit Merle and Daryl together in a fight, and then Rick came into Woodbury and sprung Glenn and Maggie in, and all the chaos. Merle and everybody ran away.
Yep.
Merle went to the prison.
That just about sums it up.
I also have a plot summary here for this episode. Did you want to read that one?
Yeah. Plot summary. Andrea arranges a meeting between Rick and the governor. Daryl and Herschel bond with Martinez and Milton. Glenn reconciles with Maggie. Sorry. The governor offers peace if Rick gives him Michonne, but prepares to kill Rick's group regardless.
That's a very concise summary, but it's
Pretty
fitting.
accurate. Yeah.
So how'd you feel about it?
The summary or the episode,
The
I'm
episode.
guessing. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I there's a thing that really bothers me in this episode that like almost prevents me from enjoying it, and it's how painfully awkward I feel for Andrea in this episode, because she is so dismissed by everyone except Herschel, who's kind to her. And I find that really hard to watch as someone, and I'm not going to say as a woman because it can happen to anyone in weird power dynamics, but anyone who's been kind of dismissed or not listened to when you're doing your best and people are not paying attention. I think it's not great that she's the woman in this episode who that is happening to, and she is annoying as hell. But that moment where they kind of both are mad at her and dismiss her to go outside, oh god, I just find it really hard to come back from that. That's really
Rick
hard.
too, yeah.
Yeah, Rick's pissed at her, and I'm like, Rick! Like, oh, it's the worst.
Yeah, and honestly, having a break from the series, so not being fresh from maybe her most annoying episode, which was maybe the one before Clear, where she decided not to kill the governor, because that's where we left her. I didn't find her annoying in this episode. I thought she was right on. Like, the only thing is she should probably know by this time that she wants to broker peace, which is very admirable. She should realize by this point, with what she knows of the governor, that that's not going to fly. But aside from that, I mean, she's trying to do the thing to keep the most people alive in both places. And that's totally way more admirable than wanting to just fucking go to war,
She's doing exactly the right thing in terms of trying to broker peace, trying to do something. If I was to criticize her for one thing, it would be that, like, well, it's something that I think Rick is culpable of too in this episode a little bit, and the governor names it, is good faith negotiation. The governor is doing nothing in good faith.
No.
Nothing. But the people around him believe that he might be. I don't think Rick really does, but Andrea still does. Andrea still believes
Rick thinks there's a chance.
resolution. Yeah, Rick's not
He
certain one
he
way or
thinks
the other.
probably not, but maybe.
Yeah, he wants to believe that there is, and the
Yeah, and
governor's
that's
just
dumb.
like,
And the
yeah,
governor, yeah, not at all. And Rick would negotiate in good faith if he had a partner that was negotiating good faith,
yeah,
but he
exactly.
doesn't. Yeah,
And I find that I just find, yeah, I think you're right. I think in this episode, Andrea is pretty innocent of being a knob. I'm gonna say
yeah,
her dickhead status is not on the record in this one.
hmm
And I just find it really difficult how dismissed she is. It's an ugly side to both Rick and the governor that they are so dismissive of her. And there's a lot of testosterone in this episode, particularly between Martinez and
Daryl.
Daryl. And it's the pairings, it's like two men. There's Rick and the governor, there's Herschel and Milton, which I loved.
hmm
Daryl and Martinez, which I loved. Like I love all those pairings. But Andrea really sticks out like a sore thumb in all of this, and she knows she does. Like from the time she gets there, they've not told her that the governor is coming early. It's becoming ever more clear that she is not a part of any of this anymore, despite thinking she was like the first lady of Woodbury. She's
Yeah,
really not, and that's got to fucking sting at this point.
yeah, and I mean, on a meta level, people really were annoyed with her, and they
Hmm.
had some good reasons for sure. But I find her less annoying on in this rewatch than I did on. I think maybe I don't know. I'd have to go back, but I think I always found her a little less annoying than most people. But
Hmm.
because I'm really trying to parse out what is her motivation here. What does she know? What does she not know? And when you look at it closely like that, I think from my point of view anyway, she's not doing as badly as I think a lot of people say she is. There are points where she does occasionally, but especially like when she left Beth with that knife. I'm
Yeah.
just like fuck you for that. But there's a lot of things where I think, hey, she's just trying to help the people of Woodbury right now. She should have killed the governor in his sleep. You know, she probably should have done that.
But we're not, I think, for the same reasons that she's trying to do this negotiation now, we're not at that stage yet mentally. She's not at that stage yet mentally to be able to kill someone in their sleep. And
Yeah,
we're still holding on to those vestiges of what life was
humanity.
like before and humanity. And
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
And it's hard to remember that when you're watching a TV show where we just get numb to the idea of killing someone and think, why don't you kill them? But
yeah,
if you
just
think
fucking shoot
about
them in
what
the
a real
face.
person, yeah, like if you're at home and your partner said something annoying, why don't you kill him? No, you're not gonna kill
Yeah.
him, you're gonna talk about
And I guess
it.
that's hard in scale. So I think this is another way in which coming into the rewatch is an interesting juxtaposition, is because in the last few episodes of the Daryl show that we watched, there were so many red shirts and people just dying all over the shop. Like there was
Yeah.
meaningless slaughter, and Daryl
Yeah.
and other characters we've come to know and love do that. It's become John Wick. People are getting killed all
Yeah.
over the place. So it is really funny in a sense to look back and be like, watch Rick agonizing over one thing, or watch Andrea not stab a guy in his sleep and be like, ugh. You know?
Yeah. And I'm more, yeah, I think I just get the sense that a lot of people prefer the Daryl way. I don't know if I'm going to say most, but a lot
Yeah.
where it's like, just kill. Who cares? It's a movie. You know, don't like if someone agonizes over killing someone, they're weak.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? And I think with The Walking Dead, there is a bit of the old frog in boiling water in that we start off
Yeah. Oh yeah.
believable, and then by season 10 or 11, we're like, oh yeah, that's normal, just to like set all those zombies on fire and have them do this and do that and do this. That's no big deal. Even by season 5, we're kind of getting there. And I think it was kind of nice in a way to come back into an episode that was based around this very small scale conflict
hmm
and this attempt to resolve it in quite an old school political way. And I find that particularly interesting given, and I'm not just talking about America right now, I'm talking about like all over the world right now, there's a lot of governmental change. And the way that we understand politics is changing, and the way that people negotiate is changing. And there's this kind of new populist way of doing politics that doesn't really tie in with old school diplomacy. And
It's about trying to be the biggest celebrity that people are
yeah,
entertained by the most
yeah, there's no
on both
more
sides, on
like
all sides.
sitting. I read a really interesting book called Politics on the Edge by Rory Stewart, and Rory Stewart he hosts The Rest is Politics UK, which is like they call themselves the Centrist Dads podcast, which is pretty accurate, to be honest. But one of the things that fascinates me is he's like this old school politician who went into everything with good faith and assumed everyone around him was acting in good faith and became super disillusioned within like 2 years. He's like, nobody's acting in good faith. Nobody
Mm.
prepares their speeches. Nobody does shit. No one knows anything. I'm the only one doing it. And I really felt for Andrea in this episode that like she's coming into it thinking these are two reasonable men. And for various reasons, neither of them is reasonable at this particular moment. Although I guess Rick is quite reasonable.
I would argue Rick is, although, see, I wondered, we're kind of getting into my point about Andrea. Can I just go into it? Do you mind?
Yeah, I'm kind of skirting mine as well, so go for it and we'll get there.
Okay. So, first off, just as far as whether I liked the episode, I did enjoy it. I think it's the kind of episode you can only have in longer seasons, shows with longer seasons, because
Yeah.
it did feel a bit padded out, like it's spinning its wheels with this long conversation. But you could charitably say this is the governor and Rick in this sort of psychological cat and mouse game. So it was interesting to see how that developed, and it was fun to watch the pawns, how they interacted outside the summit, and I think also on first watch, like we knew that there was going to be a big confrontation, most likely between the governor's group and Rick's group. And we were just sort of waiting. When is it going to happen? And we figured, are they going to save it to the end? Well, now that we know it's episode 16 and
Yeah.
we're not like waiting for it, we can more just enjoy this for what it is. So I thought it was more enjoyable probably than I did when I first saw it. So Andrea, I like that she put this summit together, and as I said, her heart's in the right place, and I admire that. But she knows, I said this in a previous podcast, but she knows the governor sent people to kill Michonne after pretending that Michonne could leave, and that he kidnapped Glenn and Maggie, and that he forced Daryl and Merle to fight to the death, and then that he went to the prison and attacked it, and then lied about it, saying they attacked first. She knows he's arming and training his people down to 13-year-olds to go to the prison and attack, and lying to the people about why. And I don't remember if she knows about Penny and that Michonne killed Penny, and that this is kind of why the governor's doing all this.
She finds him holding Penny, so she must know.
She must. So I don't know how much she realizes what that means. I'd say if you're trying to broker peace between two parties, you need to understand where they're both coming from. So hopefully she understands what that means. But anyway, her solution is to mark this boundary between the prison and Woodbury, and both sides agree not to cross it and leave each other alone. And watching them talk about that, I got the feeling like this is probably not too much different from how states and countries formed early on. Like people who are against each other agree, all right, we're having this barrier, you don't cross it, and we'll, then you'll be safe. If you do, we're going to kill you.
I was going to say the title of the episode comes from part of that, what you were just saying. It's in my IMDb dive, but the idea of arrow on the doorpost. The title arrow on the doorpost comes from the practice of many Native American tribes sticking a tomahawk or arrow into a tree or gatepost marking the outer boundary of their land during times of war with others. The tomahawk or arrow would be planted at the beginning of the conflict and not removed until the conflict was resolved. In some modern Native American families, this tradition has been updated, and the family will similarly mark a post on a veranda or tree in the front yard while a family member in service to the military is deployed in combat.
Wait, so
we were talking about boundaries.
Put it there so that people know, to signify what?
That they're away, that they're in battle.
But what's the point of doing that? So that people will leave them alone, or just?
I think it's just commemoration.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just significant.
But it's a boundary. Yeah, that makes sense as far as how that's interesting. So then, the governor asks Andrea to step out, and Rick agrees. I came to talk to him, and that made me wonder, what if Andrea had stayed? How would things have gone?
Right.
Because I think, the governor's clearly there to get one thing, for Rick to agree to bring Michonne back there so that he can capture Michonne and kill Rick's people. And I don't think he's going to be happy coming away with anything other than that. And so with Andrea there, she never would have agreed to give up Michonne. They probably would have come to an impasse, and then they would have not had any agreement, but at least they would all know for sure where they really stood. It wouldn't have been as interesting of a story maybe, but I just think that you totally understand why the governor would want her away. But Rick maybe should have said, no, she's our middleman, or middle person, whatever. Let's have her stay and help us negotiate this, like there's often a middle party when there's two sides negotiating like that. And Andrea is actually kind of perfect because she has ties to both sides and wants to see peace. And Rick presumably wants to see peace too. So I honestly, and she used to be a lawyer, I honestly think that he would have been better off keeping her there.
Yeah, absolutely. But it turns into a dick swinging contest.
Yeah. Why would Rick not want her there? And I'm thinking maybe just because he thinks that the governor probably isn't even listening to her anyway, and the governor's the one that he needs to talk to. But still,
I think Rick still doesn't quite trust her either, because that's his big thing when she comes to the prison is he's like, what have you told your boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, okay, I will say this, Rick's not wrong, because like the governor knows a lot about Rick's personal life, so like Andrea has been talking. But no shade, it's fine. I would chat too.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. I mean, I feel like it's more just a plot thing that they had Rick say that because the writers didn't want Andrea there because they knew that she wouldn't have accepted what the governor said.
Yeah, it's also to enhance this idea that Andrea, I think, is completely isolated. Like, she's not super. If they turned up and they were just like, you're our girl, Andrea, you come back with us right now. We love you, babe. Like, the tension of her, she would never, you know what I mean? It would make no sense for her to go back to Woodbury. I mean, it's tenacious at this point either way, but I think she has to kind of be isolated from both sides. So I think you're right. I think it is a writer decision with a couple of different things playing on it.
So then all else I had to say about this is that she goes outside and she's talking to Herschel and she says, what happened with Maggie? And I don't know what spurred her to say that. Had Maggie come up earlier?
Yeah, Rick says pointedly in front of Andrea, he's like, I know about what you did. And then he sort of goes, Maggie. And you can see Andrea be like, what?
Okay. So then Herschel just says he's a sick man and she starts crying. And it's like just every little new piece of information that she gets about the governor. She's like, okay, he's an evil person. He's a bad man. And she says right then, I don't want to go back with him. So now she's like, just fully decided he's fucked. But Herschel says, you can come with us, of course, but if you join us, it's settled. And I wasn't sure if he meant if you come with us, you can't ever go back to Woodbury, or if he meant if you come with us, that's going to cause trouble or cause war or something. I wasn't sure what he meant by it's settled, but she said,
kind of both. I mean, like you can't go back and forth again. Like it's got to be, that's you there.
Yeah. So she has to go back. And then I actually watched next week's episode because I'm not going to be here for the podcast. So I had to make a clip for you guys, but
amazing.
I won't talk about it.
Can't wait to find out which one. Yeah, well, I had a bunch of stuff on Andrea. Just the way that throughout this whole episode she's on the back foot. She's been left out of the plan for the governor arriving early. She clearly thought she would be key to these negotiations, and she absolutely is not in any way, shape, or form. They can't get rid of her quickly enough. She gets spoken over. Rick gets angry at her. She's physically dismissed. She's like sent from the room, which is mortifying because she kind of has to walk out there to the sort of, I don't want to say lackeys because we know it's not quite like that, but it's that optic of like, oh, I've been sent out from the big boys' table to come and sit outside. And
it is, yeah.
It's
they
so
have no power.
Yeah. And then that moment where Martinez and Daryl are sort of posturing against one another, killing these Zeds, and she comes in with her knife and then kind of goes off rolling her eyes. She just doesn't fit. She doesn't fit in either place. She doesn't fit in the negotiation room. She doesn't fit with these two guys who are, again, kind of showing off killing these zombies. Like, she's just at a complete loose end. I felt really sad for her when she asked about Maggie because I think that's the last possible part of her that romantically loves the governor
Yeah,
is gone at that point. Like, I don't think there's any coming back from it.
right. And it should have been gone before, but
It
I
should
think that it
have.
really is now.
It has to
You
be
better
now.
hope so.
Like,
Yeah.
it just has to be. Um, Michonne still worries about Andrea. When Merle and Michonne are having their little chat, Michonne doesn't want to go in case Andrea gets hurt, and that really broke my heart because they had such a nice friendship, and now they
Yeah.
don't
Well,
because the
yeah. I
governor.
mean, they were fighting, but friends fight sometimes.
They
I would be
do.
surprised if Michonne wasn't worried about her.
They do. And these final scenes where they get back to Woodbury, the polite distance between Andrea and the governor, ugh, says so much. You know, he
Mm-hmm.
makes it clear that she is not privy to like his ideas anymore. Um, she barely gets a nod for setting it up and getting the whole thing together, and they go their separate ways. And of course, we know from what he says to Herschel, to Milton, that they're going to war. Like everything was bollocks. Like nothing of it
Yeah.
was real.
I kind of love that because like
Yeah.
all this negotiation with Rick, and then we're wondering, or we're thinking, you probably can't trust anything he said, and then immediately he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna kill them all."
Yeah,
I
just
just
gonna
love they
kill them
didn't
all.
waste any time revealing
Just
that.
gonna kill them all. And
Yeah,
Milton's like,
exactly what you
but
guys
that's
thought.
a
That's what it was. Yeah,
slaughter. And
yeah.
they're
He's
like,
like, well, he goes, wait, what about the deal? And the governor goes, well, that's the best way to avoid a slaughter. And he goes, that is the slaughter.
that's why they keep him around for the science. Um, I did also laugh because I feel like this episode has your favorite scene in it
I forgot now.
with Milton and Herschel.
Where Maggie and Glenn have. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. Oh yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, the other favorite
Yes,
scene.
that is the only like we are getting into a part of The Walking Dead where I have very little memory of the specifics, and what memory I do have tends to come from the bad lip reading videos. Bibbidi bibbidi
Same.
dum. But I did remember that scene, yeah, with Herschel and Milton for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, almost one of my points was, good Lord, most of this episode has been thoroughly wrecked by bad lip reading. Like every time the governor said something, I was like, and that's how they do it
But on
on
Broadway.
Broadway.
Doom, doom.
It's so bad. It's been overly memed. I can't.
I love it. I
So
wouldn't
good.
change it.
So good.
Okay, my turn.
Yeah.
Okay, should I go through the negotiation or should I talk about the pawns?
Ooh. What would you prefer? Should we
Um,
negotiate?
I guess we'll go through the negotiation.
Cool.
So, just kind of going through it as it played out. We see Rick and Daryl moving in on this location with their weapons at the ready.
Cool silent open. Nobody
Yeah.
talks till 3 minutes 17. It's cool.
And we're not sure what's going on because we saw them get weapons, from where Morgan was, but
Mm-hmm.
we didn't know that they were going to, it seemed like they were proactively going in to attack, right?
Yeah.
We didn't know this was some kind of a meeting.
No.
And so I like how they set it up, making it seem like they're ambushing someone, and then the governor's just there with a grin on his face. Hey.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
He's like,
that was
hello.
a fun setup. The governor says he could have killed them all, but didn't. He tells Rick that. And I'm like, no, that's not true. And governor says later on, Rick's people are better trained, but the governor has more people. But when he attacked the prison, he didn't have all of them. He's been training people since then. But if he could have killed them all when he attacked the prison, he would have, because we know from the end of this episode that's exactly what he wants to do. So he's saying a lot of things in this negotiation to frame things a certain way to manipulate
Oh,
this situation to get what he
awful.
wants.
When he's like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't think I want your prison. It sounds horrible.
Yeah.
I'm like, you clearly want the
He's
prison.
like, yeah.
Like,
And it's like
whatever.
you said, the way politicians don't argue in good faith. That's
Yeah.
what the governor's doing. When he puts his gun on the table to show that he wants to negotiate in good faith, I remember thinking, you can't trust him. He's probably going to make a move. And then we see that he does have a gun taped under the table. But I, kind of liked that it wasn't Chekhov's gun. It was just there for insurance.
Mhm.
It made
It's
him,
a good shot as
it's
well.
smart.
I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. But and it makes us worried the whole time that
Mhm.
he might use it, but he
Although,
didn't.
like, it's so taped on. Like, I was thinking that about her
Yeah.
just like as well. I was like, how are you going to get that off real quick? Like,
Hold on
ow,
a
my
second.
leg hair.
Do you have a pocket knife or something?
Do you have a knife or anything, Rick? Sorry, it's no reason. I just need to like do something
I
here.
like to
Like
whittle.
I like to whittle.
That is funny. I wondered what stopped Rick from just killing him right there. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's part of that holding on to humanity. And I think prior to this, everyone's going to be like, "You're very wrong." Has Rick killed anyone man on man since he killed Shane?
Uh, yeah, I guess not. I I think maybe it's more about just wanting to see what happens here because if you kill the governor, then maybe there's somebody else who would just lead his people to attack you,
Yeah.
like Martinez or somebody. So maybe it's just more about, all right, let's try to see what the situation is here and see if I can get some control over it without
Yeah.
just causing a war. Because why would the governor just come here and be open unless he thought that, I don't know. The governor's playing with his mind just by being so vulnerable. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, maybe that's not the right thing to kill him if he's just going to be vulnerable like that.
Yeah. And yeah, Rick is in uh, a very fresh mental distress stage. Like, he's not the full ticket right now. He's getting there, but yeah,
Mhm.
Judith's 8 days old. Things are fresh.
I liked his demeanor throughout this. He
Mm.
seems very intense, just high alert, but also aggressive. Like I'm not someone to be fucked with, and I'm here to make a deal. And if you don't do that, then you're gonna fucking regret it. Just got this real intensity about him.
Yeah, absolutely. And he did the Rick
Smolderingness.
run with his like arms down by his side at the start, like his kind of stealth
He
run.
does that. I didn't even know
I love it.
that.
I love it. The Rick run.
So Andrea proposes that they don't cross a boundary, that they set a boundary that neither one will cross. Rick mentions some river. The governor says no, that he's only there for their surrender. And
Mm.
I think that's another tactic, ask for something big to ultimately land on something smaller. And I think Rick probably knows that. There's a lot of posturing between them, needling each other. Rick being kind of critical that, oh, you call yourself the governor, and
Mhm.
and or then he says, I love this line: "You're the town drunk who knocked down my fence and ripped my yard. Nothing more."
Yep.
I love that.
He fucking tells him it's great.
And then the governor says, Andrea told me about your baby that might be your partner's, but you're caring for her, and I admire that. He's saying he admires it, but he's needling him like you got cheated on.
He's
And,
such a dick. I love it.
and
It's
I
so
totally
good.
didn't remember the governor, or I didn't remember that anyone had acknowledged that Judith might be Shane's until Rick says it to Michonne 5 seasons from
Yeah,
now
in
or
like season
whatever.
7, right?
7, yeah. Um, then he says, you're caring for her, and I admire that restitution for your own lack of insight for failing to see the devil beside you, which totally set him up, Rick, to say, oh, I see him all right, which
Oh,
is
I love that
still a
line.
great line.
I see him.
And my first thought to that was, yeah, maybe his, everything that happened with Shane has trained Rick not to trust people so easily anymore. But then I'm like, nah, he never would have trusted the governor anyway.
No.
I don't
No, he's
think.
good at reading people that way, I think.
Yeah. So then the governor tells Rick he's doing this because Rick broke in and shot up their street. And I mean, Rick was doing that to save Glenn and Maggie, which the governor falsely blamed on Merle, their kidnapping. So he's just full of shit.
He's talking
Not
absolute
negotiating
nonsense.
in good faith. Yeah. Then
Yeah.
he tells Rick about getting a call at work that his wife was in an accident and died. And I'm like, I don't know. That might be true. It might not. But whether it is or not, it's a total manipulation tactic. And it kind of works, I think, because Rick does relate about losing a wife and feeling like there's unfinished business there. The governor's like, oh, she called me, but I don't know what it was about. What was she going to say? And that totally plays into Rick's feelings of unfinished business with Lori, I feel like, because they were
Mhm.
fighting. And right then, Rick takes his first drink of this whiskey that the governor had put down. And the governor, I think, got a look on his face like, I'm getting to him,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
Here.
definitely. There's definitely. And then he takes a very different sip of whiskey where he's like, mm-hmm. And you're like,
Exactly.
oh.
Then the governor's saying, okay, we can fight this and it will go down to the last person and everyone dies. So he's pretty much just this whole time been saying, uh, everyone you're going to surrender. Everyone's going to die. You know, the worst thing's going to happen. Or what about this other thing? And that's when he says, uh, well, let's see. At first, Rick thinks the governor wants the prison. He says, we're not moving on. And yeah, that's what you said. The governor says, well, what good would that would do me? Best you stay where I can keep my one good eye on you. And when he mentions his eye, that's a sign he's thinking about Michonne, who took his other eye. And then he takes off his patch and says, I want, I want Michonne. But I think it's not, I think it's not really about revenge for his eye. It's about revenge for Penny.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe his eye some, but more about Penny. And like I said, I watched the next episode because I'm not going to be here for it, but I am going to just quote one line from it because Milton thinks Milton is critical that the governor wants to take Michonne and kill all of them. And the governor says, let me ask you something, huh? Do you still believe the biters have some spark in them of who they were? And Milton says, I think so. And the governor says, then that was my daughter, wasn't it? And Milton says, whether that was Penny or not, it's done. It doesn't matter. And the governor says, oh, it's all that matters. And I just think that's like if he was on Fear the Walking Dead reading off his character card, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But I don't mean to frame it in a way that's bad. I think it was good writing. But I think that's just what he's all about, that he thinks there's a chance the zombies could be brought back. And so the way he sees it, Michonne killed his daughter, and for no other reason than to spite him. And if I thought someone killed my son right in front of me just to spite me, I would probably want them dead too. So I can get a little bit of understanding of where the governor's coming from here.
But I honestly think I feel like Penny is a bit of a pretext sometimes. I think the governor had a darkness there before she was killed by Michonne that would have led to some of this anyway. But I agree that it's very much a like wildfire kind of sets the...
Yeah, I think you're right. If you believe what he said about his wife, that she got in an accident and died, then this is speculation, but maybe there's a parallel between Morgan, Rick, and the governor. They lost their wives and they became darker, and the governor and Morgan both just kept going down that path. Morgan, it turns out, is really good at flip-flopping around, but the governor goes dark. And so then, yeah, I mean, when we meet him, he's already a bad guy, but anyway, I think that his whole purpose is Penny, though, but I still don't think it's coming from a human place. It's coming from a broken place.
I don't think there's any human left in him at this point.
Yeah.
It's just gone. I think he's gone into full kind of, I don't know if it's narcissism or what, but he's in a full high now because he knows what he's going to do and how he's going to get his revenge, and he's just not listening or understanding anything else around it because he doesn't want to.
No, yeah, I don't think he has any compassion for anyone. They're all just objects to be used or destroyed. Yeah. Which is very narcissistic. So then Rick says, you know, if I give you Michonne, how do I know you'll keep your word, that you'll stop? And the governor says, you can have everything you want. I told you, I don't care about you. And I'm like, yeah, I would not. He hasn't earned any trust. No. There's no reason to trust him at all.
These are no good faith.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason Rick should trust that. The governor gives Rick 2 days to think about it, meet back there at noon. And yeah, that's the end of the negotiation.
Mm-hmm. And it was all a massive hooking waste of time.
I know. Yeah, it was. I mean, the best you can say about it is it had some entertainment value.
Got them all out of the house for a bit.
That's right.
Also, the governor dropping major hints that he's keeping an eye on the prison is quite creepy and effective.
Oh, I saw you broued some weapons the other day.
Like, no.
So they should start scanning the horizon to see if there's like some guy up in a tree with binoculars or something.
They really should. I mean, there's so few of them at the prison. There's probably 5 men watching, and they're all just like, "What?"
So what's next?
Well, I'll go to the prison and talk about Glenn and Maggie. I get so upset now watching Glenn and Maggie scenes because I'm like, how much time do they have
Mm.
left? I get so sad about it because this I thought was actually quite a sweet scene. Peter and I did end up having a massive conversation about sex on The Walking Dead and whether this was one of the most explicit sex scenes that we see.
Hmm.
Um,
I think of Rosita and
Rosita and Abraham
Abraham.
in the library. Yeah, it feels like it's pretty. I feel like The Walking Dead is not a sexy show, but when it happens, I'm always like, oh yeah, oh gosh, yeah, they do. Oh right, okay, it's not
Hmm.
implied, it's happening. But what I like about it is that it's quite a sweet reconciliation between Glenn and Maggie, because Glenn is really struggling to keep the prison in check, I think, and to keep his strength and his ego intact around Merle, which must be incredibly difficult.
Hmm.
They end up having this physical altercation where Merle's trying to get out of the prison and so on.
I forgot that they fought.
Yeah. And we see Glenn standing on the kind of contemplative bridge or like an area where
He's
he's
supposed to be keeping watch.
yeah, so they're both supposed to be keeping watch,
I
Jason.
know.
Maggie's supposed to be keeping watch as well. If everyone died, I hope they'd feel bad. However,
That's what I thought was going to happen because I didn't
yeah,
remember because they're both supposed to be keeping watch and then they go fuck and I'm
yeah.
like, what if somebody comes and kills you?
Close the door. I was like, could you get a boner in the zombie apocalypse? Like the smell and the noises. Anyway, whatever. They have a nice reconciliation where Glenn says, and I think he's right, and I liked his apology that he made what happened at Woodbury all about him. Maggie needed her space and he didn't give her that. And Maggie saying that she just wanted him to see her rather than what had happened. And I thought that's actually really nice, healthy resolution. Um, Maggie saying to Glenn, I'm with you, I'm always with you, made me think of Maggie, I'll find you. And then I got really sad. And then that
Hmm.
was very emotionally confusing because then the scene got very horny very quickly. And we saw
I
some
know.
attractive people in their 20s going to town on each other, which is like, good for them. So it was a nice break from the rest of the show. And it was nice to kind of have Maggie and Glenn reconciled to each other. I remembered that conflict going on a lot longer. But I think that's the
Yeah.
joy of the rewatch is it's easier to kind of see that it was actually only a couple of episodes
Yeah. I was relieved. But then when I scrutinized it on second watch, I was a
in slow
little
motion.
critical. Yeah, just frame by frame. No, he said, when we got back from Woodbury, I made it all about me and you needed your space and I didn't give you that. And it felt like what happened was that he was feeling critical of her for having been sexually assaulted, right?
Mm.
We don't know for sure, but that's kind of how it seemed that he was
Mhm.
mad at her for even it's illogical
Yeah,
and
he was feeling
and
frustrated at the yeah.
yeah and like you did something with the governor even though you had no choice. I'm mad at you for that. That's kind of what it felt like. And we've talked about that in the rewatch. Some listeners felt the same way. And so by saying I made it all about me, that's sort of addressing that, but it's not
Mhm.
really pinpointing it. Like he should, and maybe we're getting it wrong, but I just feel like he
Mhm.
should have said, wow, I was so wrong to think that you did anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. And I'm sorry,
Mhm.
that would have been better, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Maggie
I'm
seemed
being
happy.
nitpicky. Yeah. She seemed happy
Seemed
and,
really happy.
and it did seem like he got over himself and that's good. But it also felt a little bit like, well, what happened to change him? Did he just need a little time to pass? It felt like the writers are like, this story's bumming me out. Let's just end it. Let's have
Yeah.
Glenn be a good guy again.
Yeah. I think it's nice as well. I think I'm always a fan of like women because there was this kind of not fad, but there was a lot of discourse at the end of the naughty start of the 2010s around about Game of Thrones peak television time about how we depict sex and sexual assault on television. And one of the things that I liked about this scene was seeing someone who had been assaulted being able to reclaim a joyful and loving sexual relationship with somebody. I thought that was actually really
Yeah.
nice to see that depicted rather than have them be someone who's forever marked or forever struggles with it because
Hmm.
women and men who are victims of sexual assault can go on to have massively fulfilling and happy lives. And I think it is well, Maggie, maybe not because Negan comes and kills Glenn, but that's a separate story. Um,
Yeah. That's
but in
different.
this case, it's nice to see that they didn't sort of take that away from her or take that capacity away from her. So yeah, I found
Yeah,
that quite joyful.
me too. I mean, the whole thing is joyful. I want to see them together and happy. And like you said, we know what happens, so we
Yeah.
want them to have as much happy time together as they can.
Go ahead and bone, kids. You have our blessing.
Go to town.
Go to town on each other while you can.
Maybe you should do it when you're not supposed to be on watch, but whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna say, although as if I lived in the prison, I might be a bit like, really, right now? Okay.
Yeah. Maybe call somebody out there first.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of poor Carl having to stand outside the shed. They're
I
like,
know, I know.
Carl, you're on watch. Carl's like, oh.
Oh, can you go in the cell block B or something? No,
Oh, we
it's
can't
not
ask
safe,
Herschel.
sorry.
We can't ask Herschel or Beth. That would be weird. And it's like, oh God.
Okay, I'm going to talk about. I call them the pawns because
Yeah.
they're sort of underlings dealing with each other
Mhm.
outside the negotiating room. Yeah, the two pairs, it's Milton and Herschel and Daryl and Martinez, and they're so different, the two pairs, from each other. Milton and Herschel are less aggressive, and Milton's cerebral and curious. Herschel is wise and spiritual, and they get friendly really fast. And I just love that. Milton, all he had to say is, someone has to keep a record of what we've been through. And Herschel's like, that makes sense. And then they're friends, you know?
Milton's eyes lit up like a little kid who
Yeah.
realizes that you like dinosaurs too. And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
you like dinosaurs? And you're like, yeah, do you want to see my dinosaurs? And you're like,
Right.
yeah, go for
Yeah.
it. Cool.
Because in this world where it's all about fighting and killing and strength and survival, and now you get to talk about like actually what it takes to have a civilization, and someone cares about that. And then while Martinez and Daryl, they seem like adversaries at first, but then it's more like, we're just trying to prove who's more badass, as Andrea rolls her eyes.
Yeah.
And then I realized it's actually just as much of a bonding and connecting thing as with Herschel and Milton. They're doing it in their own ways. They're showing off, but then as each one of them shows off, instead of seeing the other as a threat, I think they're both just feeling more respect for one another.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's good.
It's their language. It's the way that they do it. And that's absolutely it.
And even more of a bonding thing is they recognize that they fill similar roles with their groups, and they connect on that. Largely wordlessly, which I'm always impressed by, when you can impart a lot without a lot of dialogue explicating it. And then when Daryl offers Martinez a cigarette, and Martinez says, "Nah, I prefer menthols," and Daryl goes, "Douchebag." That's another thing that just made them respect each other more, I think. That posturing, and they're like brothers. And then Martinez, just because Martinez right after that, he gets called a douchebag, and his response is to be vulnerable. He mentions that zombies killed his wife and kids, and Daryl says, that sucks. And that's like, oh, we're best buddies now. And then Martinez says, because now I think with very little words, they just feel like, okay, we're kind of similar. We're friends. I get you. Yeah. And Martinez says these negotiations are all bullshit and nothing's going to come from it. And Daryl's like, I know. And that was just like, it reminded me of war and how, and even, or like the polarization of politics here in the United States, where there's these situations outside of our daily lives that pit us against each other. And if those were gone, or like I was saying in a podcast before, a lot of times war happens purely because of the psychodrama of the leader, like Putin invading Ukraine. It may just be part of his psychology, and all these people, innocent people, have to suffer for it, when in other circumstances they could all connect and be friends, you know? It's the tragedy.
Well, think about the story in World War I with the football, the soccer.
Nope.
In the trenches, the famously one Christmas, I think it was halfway through the war, so you've got these massive trenches on either side of no man's land, which is this like desolate area that's just full of like artillery shells, and they're stuck, and they've been stuck for months and months. And these young men on Christmas Day put up white flags, and they get up onto no man's land and they play football together. And then the next day they're back in their trenches shooting at each other again. Yeah. But it happened. It really did happen. It's incredible.
And that was inherent in what Milton, Martinez and Daryl were saying to each other when they're saying, nothing's going to get resolved here. What was sort of unsaid is, and we're going to be trying to kill each other. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they had the most profound conversation in the whole episode. They were just like,
Hmm.
yeah, this doesn't change anything. It's like, nope. Sort of like in a Shakespeare play when like, I don't know, the two guards or like the two soldiers have a conversation when everyone
Yeah.
else is doing all this stuff and they're just like,
And they're right.
yeah,
What they said was absolutely right.
absolutely right.
Yeah. And Milton and Herschel talking about his leg and
Mhm.
yeah, can I see your stump? And it's important data. I'm not showing you my leg. At least buy me a drink first. And they
I
start
love
laughing.
that.
Yeah, I love that scene.
And how excited Milton is to ask. He's like, I just kind of want. It borders on creepy if you didn't know Milton and know that he's actually just jazzed about the science. Like you'd be like,
Yeah.
oh my God, who the fuck? But yeah, no, it's cute.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
actually
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's like when you know scientists, engineers, my wife's a doctor, you kind of parse things that they say through that and it comes off
yeah.
differently than if you didn't know, then it could be creepy.
Or if you're just one of those weird
Sometimes.
people like me that likes gross pictures of like injuries and bruises, because I love that shit.
Oh,
I
that is
love
weird.
it.
I
Yeah,
gotta
I
say.
just love it. People like, do you want to see something gross? I'm like, yes. Like, show me. Like, I want to see it. I'm like, oh,
That's
unless it's to
funny.
do with eyes, in which case I do not want to
Oh,
see it.
or spiders?
Yeah, not spiders.
Not spiders, yeah. But if
All
it's a
my
wound,
phone
a gaping wound.
algorithm, literally all my phone algorithm wants to show me is like mutant spider found in Norfolk fens. I'm like, why do you want to
The
show me
phone
that?
hates you.
Awful. My phone hates me. But yeah, if it's like a weird bruise or something, oh yeah, I want to see that shit. That's cool.
I, I hurt my leg when I was in Colorado by going downstairs wrong, and I just went to the doctor to have it checked out, and I didn't even notice it until I was at the doctor. But there's this bruise on my foot, not even where the wound is. It's like it just showed up in some other spot. It's so weird.
Do you
But I was
bruise
kind of
quite
fascinated
easily?
looking at it. No, it was just this is kind of bad. It was so
Yeah.
stupid.
I bruise
Limping
super
around.
easily, but like Peter doesn't bruise for like a week. Like he'll hit his arm or whatever, and then like a week later, this massive bruise will come up,
Mm.
and I'm like, what is the deal with that? Apparently, there's no science behind it, but yeah,
It
bummer.
was weird. Bruises are weird.
Mm.
One more thing about this whole situation, I just thought it was interesting that Martinez is using a bat, and
Yes.
it makes you think of Negan. So I looked up the dates. This episode aired March 17th, 2013, and Walking Dead, the comic, issue 100, where Negan kills Glenn with his bat, came out July 11th, 2012, so
Mm.
almost a year earlier. And I think after that issue, we saw at least two and maybe more instances of baseball bats in the show, because one
Yep.
was here and another one was at Terminus when they're
Every
leaning over
time
the
we were
trough.
like,
Yeah, and I think that's them sort of indicating Negan is coming. I don't know, but
mhm.
it seems like it's a knowing kind of a thing.